Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the podcast to help you thrive with the help of spirit. I'm Deb Shepard, psychic medium, spiritual teacher, and author. Each week, I bring new insights to help you heal from loss, connect with spirit, and turn setbacks into triumphs. So let's get started.
Do you want to know one of the favorite things that I love about you?
What?
I get to be authentic. Raw, you get to see it all. I think people really want to be authentic. That's the new buzzword. But I think everyone's fearful that they're going to be judged, that they're going to not be accepted. And this buzzword of being authentic, I think people are confused what it really means. I think they think, I need other people's approval. I mean, social media right now, your confidence comes by how many likes you have.
Mm-hmm.
You must be doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is we don't need other people's approval to live a life that is authentic to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we are influenced by work, community, religion, social, financial situations, we are feeling like we need to fit in, and if not, people are going to think that we're odd or weird. Well, everyone thinks I'm odd and weird. So how many times do we get people saying, I have a weird question for you? And I always say, well, weird is my middle name, right? Because it's part of our life. It's part of what we do.
Can I tell a story?
Absolutely.
As you were talking, this popped into my head. So, our infamous time we went out for the first time and met some friends at a place here in Colorado called Cherry Creek Grill. We all went around the table because, when you're hanging out with Deb Shepard, she makes you go deep.
I'm always asking those questions. I've always been that way. It's not to be nosy. I am just really curious about people. I do that all the time.
Yeah. And this was towards the end of the year. And you asked everyone what they wanted for their next year, what they thought they wanted for their next year. And when you shared, your comment was, I want to live more authentically. And I know what you were referring to now, but you said, I want to live authentically. And I think it was in reference to pleasing everyone else, nothing to do with your relationship. I don't think it was at the time, but I think it evolved into that too.
Yeah.
But, just knowing your struggles with your parents and your family and
others.
Yeah. That's,
because it's hard.
That was your comment.
It's hard when you decide to be you.
Like,
all the
see it all. Yeah.
See it all. And people like to point out our faults. They like to, and usually it's because they're not confident in their own skin. They're not appreciating or embracing who you are. And even though I teach this a lot, it's always a work in progress. There's never a time where you're completely done because you still bring all of this old energy, all these old beliefs, all these things that you remember in your past. And as we always teach, your experiences in your past, your story is not your identity, it's a story. But it still creeps in, it seeps in sometimes, and we feel like I'm a little afraid to be courageous, to be transparent. And they used to call it coming out of the closet, right? I've come all the way out. There's not any doors or even any draperies on my closet. So it's allowing other people to feel safe enough to be who they need to be without us deciding what's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a tough thing to be able to let all that go because we try to have this image of ourselves and we think that that's going to make us happier or we have more acceptance. And what I find is that when you are not truly authentic to yourself, it does affect your ability to connect to your guides and your loved ones. So if you're wanting to develop your intuition, whether it's in business, relationships, your health, whatever that can be, if you're not showing up authentically, you're not going to get information that's really divinely guided for you. And I believe that we're all born with that compass. We're all born with that guided psychic system to help us. But if you're not being you, that guidance is not authentic for you because you're wanting to feel safe versus trying to find a way to be who you are and have the feeling of still being safe. Like, how do you respond to people? When do people judge you? Those type of situations. And of course, through my entire life, I've been judged. And I kept trying to do the dance of being accepted. And what I realized is that dance is darn hard.
And exhausting.
Exhausting. And it's not any fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I want people in my life that accept me. They don't have to agree with me or like everything that I am, but being okay with saying, you do you, I'll do me. I mean, that's really it.
So what happens, and I know you have tons of stuff you want to share,
okay.
But what happens when you have to disconnect from somebody that is showing up in a way that you are not willing to accept? Are you judging them, or are you just setting a boundary of, I'm not willing to accept that in my life?
I think anytime that you're feeling stepped on, I think it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Bullied. You feel bullied.
She talks about on your throat. I think if there's people in your life that are trying to make you be small or trying to control you or feel guilty, it's not that you are pulling away from them because you're judging them. It's you're pulling away from them because you're trying to take care of you. And in my opinion, if someone is doing those things to you, they really don't care about you. They just care about what you do for them or how they're trying to control you.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with your happiness, your true soul. And when you go into that deep level of your heart and soul, it's interesting that what comes through is very different than all of these other things that are talking outside of us that influence us.
Mm-hmm.
We're wondering, what am I supposed to do with my life? How do I create happiness? And this is a constant, like, how do I have joy? How do I, it's all this how to. Well, if you're playing in someone else's zip code or field or trying to please somebody else, you're never going to get that intuition. You and I were talking about this earlier today about these, is it Z generation, millennials? I don't remember what they're called.
Well, there's millennials, there's Gen Z. I think I'm a Gen Y, if I remember right.
I don't think I'm even in the gens. Oh, wait a minute. Gin and tonics, yes. But not in the gens.
Oh, dear.
What this is about, people are really, that are in my generation, which I obviously am older than you, where people are judging these young kids. And
we're talking about the 20-somethings, right? Before
30, maybe right in the early 30s. And of course, I like TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And
so our kids would fall in this.
Yes.
As a couple of our kids would fall in this generation.
All three of them,
okay.
would fall into it. The daughter-in-law and whoever else is in that arena. But what I'm seeing that's different, like I was telling you on the TikTok, they're showing little snippets about telling their bosses they're not going to work overtime. If you as an employer are not hiring the right people, why should I pick up the slack? You and I would have never done that. We would have sucked it up, worked our tushes off.
Which is why we've worked our tail to the bone many times. Yeah.
And we're exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And we
make ourselves sick.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them are not going to college. They're doing their own types of businesses. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing tiny houses. Mm-hmm. They're not getting in debt.
No big mortgage.
Yeah. They're traveling the world. They're just putting these limits. I am not going to do this. And in my generation, which I'm 39, 62, the generation above me are all thinking, why are these kids doing this? But I wish we would have had permission or thought about doing that. And that's being authentic, and we don't like it. Even though are you as an individual that's judging these kids, do you feel like you're being authentic? Are you doing what society is expecting versus does that make you happy?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because as we talk about our kids, we know for sure that both of our boys are happy doing what they're doing right now.
They love it.
They love it. One is in the cannabis business and having a great time and getting promoted. And the other is just got his degree in air traffic control, but it took him a while to find that path. And he wasn't finding it with everything else he tried. And finally that clicked. And to watch that evolve, they weren't willing or are not willing to accept less than what they think that they should be doing.
And they want to be happy. And they're saying, I'm not.
Or more than, they don't want more than what, they don't want that big job in some cases. Yeah.
We're seeing all these signs out there, especially after COVID, the pandemic, but we need help. And people are saying, I don't want to live the rest of my life doing that. I think it's sad in one level that
I'm okay if half the fast food restaurants close.
Or the fact
I'm saying that with a grain of salt.
We don't want their business to go down.
Right.
But at the same time, do we need to be more patient? When we were in California, I heard a man say, they said they didn't have enough service help. So I just said, well, I'm going to go across the street, versus saying, wait a minute, they're still trying to make a living. Do we need to have the food immediately there? Can we be more adaptable to our situation? And where I'm finding this young group, they're adapting, saying, I don't want to be miserable like that. I want to be my own individual. And a lot of us are having a hard time with that. But I think it's because we're not always living in our authentic place. We feel like we have to live a specific way. We have to dress a specific way.
It's the work hard generation. And I think that's just, that's how many of us were brought up. You work hard.
Yeah, you're not going to make any money.
You need to work hard, where working smart is so much better. I learned that. You learn that. And our kids do that.
And it's also learning to love what you do. When I was watching these TikToks, a lot of them were saying, you hired me to work these hours. I don't want to cover other people. And at first you're looking at them going, well, you're kind of selfish. But at the same time, are they saying, my private life, my joy, my family, my outside activities are just as important as my income? And we find people that are later in life that just feel like they worked and they didn't have any enjoyment. They don't know what their passions are. I'll ask someone, okay, you're retired or you're in a different place in your life. What do you want to do? They go, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, they've lost their identity.
They lost their identity.
Yeah.
And so these kids are saying, I still want to travel, or I still want to have a fun day. I want to do things that with my family. And we were willing to give that up.
Interesting. Authenticity.
So when you see these young people that are making choices that are not like yours or in alignment, are you feeling judgment towards them, or feel like maybe it's a sign that you could do something like that? What is it that's, as we say, poking the bear? And I think the biggest thing, the more you become authentic, and I want to talk about this, you will find your community. We try to put ourselves in a community and fit in, but we walk away exhausted. So you're trying to find a community that aligns with you, which might now be online. It may not be your community right with where you are. And when we were in Monterey, I just love the church there.
Center for Spiritual Awakening.
Yeah.
One of our favorite places in the world.
What we love about them on many levels, first Colleen and the group there, but also how they welcome everybody at every level. There's no judgment.
All religions, they look at everyone's welcome, and they study all religions from a scientific standpoint, basically.
Which is what we do.
Yeah. Every religion.
And you walk in there feeling as if you don't have to defend yourself. And there's going to be judgment. We are going to judge other people. When someone is driving you crazy, you're going to say, I need to go
Stop
away.
driving me crazy.
Stop driving me crazy. So it's not saying you're not going to be judgmental. What it means is that you're going to assess the situation versus being harder on yourself or feel like other people are judging you. It takes way too much energy. And so if you feel like you need to have a community like the one in Pacific Grove, which I just think it's one of my happy places there to go there. It's to find that community that you can walk in and be who you truly want to be, or try to learn how to figure out who you are. Because I think that's also confusion. Some people do not know who they authentically are.
Yeah.
They perform for such a long time. And I'll ask them, like, well, what is it that you want to learn? Or what is it you want to do? And they're like, I have no idea. And then it's going backwards, like, what things did you enjoy as a child? Or what things are you attracted to? Or what do you, like you and I just love history. Give me a movie or something, a documentary on history.
And we're all in.
Not that I remember the dates or the people, but I enjoy that. So some of the things that we want to do is look at how to move forward in being authentic. So some of these things that may sound like, okay, well, that's common, that's normal. It's just putting those things in place. So taking care of yourself is a priority, saying no. I think a lot of people that are caregivers, things like that, they just want to take care of everybody else. But what's important is that you make yourself a priority and do not feel guilty for getting the massage, saying no, taking time off just to read a book. Maybe it's just turning everything off and just being in your own energy. I think a lot of us feel, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something. What else is going on? And just holding on to what other people are going to think if I'm not doing what they think I should be doing. Checking our limiting beliefs.
At the door.
This is what I teach in my programs.
Yep,
of course.
the solution. Mm-hmm.
It's not that you have to believe the way I do, but if your belief is keeping you from being happy
or living authentically,
being aligned with trying to connect with the other side, or being aligned and bringing in people and opportunities that really are for you. And I think we hold on to a lot of fear and judgment from our past that we just keep holding on to. It's sort of like the item that keeps showing up that you don't want, but you don't know what to do with it. The elephant in the room. And really what I see so much of is I have fear if I let this go, what I replace it with. So what you want to do as well in this trying to find...
What are some of the things that people are afraid of letting go of that you are working with you in your mentoring classes? What are they afraid of letting go of that keep them from living authentically?
Being perfect. They feel like they can't move forward or do something if they're not perfect. Or, because I attract a lot of healers, they want to take care of everybody until I tell them it's not your job to take care of everybody else. Or making sure everyone else is okay before you take care of you. I think there's another fear that they will be abandoned by people that they care about, which is interesting because when the irony of this is if people don't like you for who you truly are, you've already been abandoned. If you're pretending to be someone just to fit in, they're really not there for you.
Yeah, that's very true.
But we think, oh, they're in my life.
Yeah.
We're exchanging things. We're having meals. We're texting, whatever. But truly, if you become who you really are, will they still be there? Because you're abandoning yourself. And that's the most important thing, is don't abandon you on your own personal journey. We don't.
No.
At all. I think we talked about what the younger generation's doing, and they're really being authentic. And if you're trying to figure out what that looks like, maybe watch, if you have children, grandchildren, or if you don't, watch what they're doing. And it's that swing of being too rigid to being completely unrigid and finding that happy medium. It's opening ourselves up to something greater, but also realizing there are still things in place that we need to be responsible for. We do need to care about the other humans on our planet. We need to care about our planet. We can't just be about ourselves. And I think people think that if they make it about them, they're selfish, versus that it's really self-love. It's really loving yourself. And the more that you're empowered and the more that you're able to lead and show people it's okay to be you, other people are going to follow, and you're going to attract more people like you.
Yeah. You start to collect people that are like-minded in your life.
Yeah. And it's much more enjoyable.
Much.
Because sometimes we have to think about what we're saying and what we're doing. So what will happen if you become more authentic? There are like 10 things. What do you think?
What will happen?
Yeah. If you become more authentic, and you stop performing and stop looking for approval and stop looking to be someone you're not, there are some things that can happen in your life that I'm hoping people will say, that's why I want to make some changes.
And that's worth it.
What I hear and what I think that you and I go through is I feel lighter. I wish it was actually pounds versus energy. Like, oh, I'm so much more authentic. I just lost 20 pounds. Wouldn't that be a great diet? But you will feel lighter because you don't have that heaviness and responsibility of being someone that you're truly not or you don't want to be. Correct? How about less tired? Do you ever feel like you're in a situation with people and you walk away feeling like the life got sucked out of you? And that tiredness is like you're keeping up a performance over and over and over versus showing up and saying, I don't want to take care of everybody right now. I just want to listen. I just want to participate. Where it can be exhausting when we're just always trying to take care of and be there for other people. because we think that that's our job.
Right.
Like us better.
Yeah. And for me, we're kind of, I mean, we're very different personalities, you and I.
Oh, 100%.
And you're
organized.
You're not.
Let's just start there. Goes downhill, but I'm authentically telling you, I am not organized.
And can I authentically say, I wish you were a little more organized?
I'll get there. It's a work in progress.
But also in a social situation, and it depends on who I'm with or the crowd or what have you. There are times when...
Your role. What you think your role is sometimes.
Yeah. There are times when I'm very outgoing and talkative and what have you, but there are times when I'm not, and I just listen, and so I can go
both ways. She also has a look. You don't want to get the look.
Oh my God. Oh gosh, that's been pointed out to me a lot lately.
You know what she's thinking. You don't have to be psychic, but that's true because I'm always that person that wants to know more questions. I mean, I want to know about you, and it's not.
But you can't get a word in edgewise when Deb Shepard goes rolling around. No, I'm kidding.
That's true because I learn so much. I'm curious about people's lives.
Yeah.
And how they get there.
And they love sharing with you.
Yeah, most of the time they do. I'm sure sometimes they're like, get her away from me. But it's also okay if you're not entertaining everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's also okay if, you're curious. So I think some people feel like they have to perform. I have to be talking. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, you can just learn to ask a few questions and people will start talking. But the greatest thing about being authentic is you start getting support. And people don't realize this because sometimes you feel like you're out there on the island by yourself. But if you become authentic, you start attracting people that get you and understand you, and they are there to be supportive. They're not there to beat you up or feel like you have to perform. I will tell you, most people do not feel supported. They feel like they're always trying to please somebody.
Yeah. And you would know that from your sessions because It seems like there's a consistent theme with people who really need help and really need to feel supported. And they're not feeling that.
And they're not asking because they don't know how. And then the other part of it is they may have to be vulnerable. And that being authentic and being vulnerable are basically aligned. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to be vulnerable because guess what? People are going to know more about me and they can use it against me. So it's learning to have that community and be supported where you can share and it's not used against you. Of course, that's what I do in my programs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of guided...
Strict on guidelines, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing is when you become that authentic person and people see that, you attract people like that, that's when you get support versus attracting people that you keep taking care of. I'm losing my voice. It must be because I need to have my voice, right?
Right.
Life becomes more simple. And the biggest thing I think here is less anxiety. So what happens is that there's some people that are having anxiety now. And I feel like a lot of it is because they're feeling like they can't keep up with what society is asking for them to do.
So many people have anxiety.
It's like an epidemic. Uh-huh. And to me, it's because there's a performance of judgment that they're worried about. When you're able to get this stuff more aligned, what's the beauty of it is you get to hear your guides more. And that's what people really want that are in the spiritual path. They want to hear their guides. So being that vulnerable person, finding and attracting that community, not taking care of everybody, all of a sudden there's a backpedaling, the anxiety's not there, and you can hear more clearly.
We weren't meant to be in the rat race we're in with just the world in the way it is. And 100%. So, slowing down and being more of yourself, mm-hmm. I can see that definitely would create less anxiety.
I think the pandemic gave us so many different scenarios, but it really helped us to slow down. But especially in America, we're not designed to slow down.
Mm-hmm. Our society's not.
But these kids that are coming through saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be more balanced. Mm-hmm. And really that's what we want. We just don't know how to do it. So it's creating that change. Less overthinking. Before we go to maybe a business meeting or a social event, whatever that looks like, family, we can overthink about what is it going to be like when we show up. How do I talk? How do I sit back? I know certain people may poke the bear. What am I going to do? Who am I going to sit next to? If you are learning to be more authentic, you walk in just saying, I'm going to be me and I'm going to figure out what shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this takes practice.
Right.
But you're not having to overthink everything before you walk into a situation. So looking at how to be authentic may be a little bit overwhelming for someone. How does this look? What am I supposed to do? But it is really the reward. So what we're talking about, feeling lighter, less tired, supported. Also, when life is happening around you, you don't take it all on. That's another one of these, is that you're realizing it's not your stuff, not your story, not your experience. So you can pull back. And you and I do this. We'll be with people and there's just so much going on and we just...
We know. We look at each other, yeah.
And it's not that we're not supportive or anything or say anything, but we don't really take it on. And I think that's the difference when you realize that they all have their side and we have our side. And it's saying, this is not the time for me to be engaged. It's my time to pull away. So that's what helps too. So the world around you begins to be less drama,
mm-hmm.
which is perfect.
Yeah, yeah. We don't like drama.
No drama.
We don't take drama.
I didn't list these as I was going along, but number 9 on here is not being the victim. I think when people are not really being true to themselves and they have all these things happen to them, they show up as a victim. Look what happens to me. Look what happens to me. But is it because they want the drama? Is that who they authentically are? What is that attraction when people have all this drama for themselves? So when you are seeing yourself constantly being the victim, you're constantly telling the story of, this is what's happening to me. What is it that you're trying to figure out? And why are you putting yourself in a situation where you're always the victim? And those are those stories that we talk about. But when you really look at that authentic person that you're showing yourself to be, you're not the victim, because when you perform, trying to get people's approval and you don't get it, you're not getting what you thought you should be getting. There's where you feel like the victim again. So that's the other piece.
That's the archetype you chose.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is that it's important to find people in your tribe. And I talk about this all the time, is how do you find people that are like-minded, that have the same energy vibration? And that's when you truly can just expose yourself, not literally, of course.
Well, for some, maybe. I don't know.
But really showing who you are as a human being. And mm-hmm. that's where each of us bring our own talents and abilities and gifts to the planet. Instead of holding back and performing the person we're not, mm-hmm. is be that person who you are. And you and I have been on so many different things where we have learned to figure out that being authentic is easier for us.
Yeah.
To be honest, and we support each other. Even if we don't there's probably times that you don't like my authenticity, but
never.
But it's always a work in progress too, mm-hmm. and you are always figuring out who you are. It's always growing. It's always changing. You're pulling away those layers. So what you are today may change in a year to 2 years or 5 years.
And what you were a year ago is not who you are today,
because
mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. you keep pulling away those layers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, I want people to know that if you are not being true to yourself and true to your community, you're going to have trouble in so many aspects of your life. And it might be difficult to bridge that in the beginning, to really step out, but it will have ease and less anxiety, and you will be happier. So that's the real key here is, do you want your life to have more peace and happiness? And that's when we show up to be truly who we are. If you're trying to figure out what that looks like to be authentic, listen to all of our podcasts. Our Spirited Straight Talk goes to a lot of core things. So continue listening, because it will help you be okay with the perfect person that you are, the way you were designed, the way you came into this planet, and to be that person to shine. So thank you for joining us once again on Spirited Straight Talk.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope it inspired you. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new episodes. And let's get connected. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and a book a session with me. And finally, always remember, Your loved ones in spirit are just a thought away. Even though they're on the other side, they're always by your side.